Welcome into another edition of Sport Ball with Squam, Stogie, and Skulldog. I'm Sam. With me, as always, are my good friends Seth and Kyle. Guys, how you doing?
I thought you were going to introduce him with a different nickname.
No, he said he was going to introduce himself.
Oh. All right.
So here with Sam today is Kyle, a.k.a. Stogie Barone, as you all know, and a.k.a. Thicky Rubio. I'll give no context. I'll leave it for you to find out.
I respect that.
Thank you.
Any thoughts, Seth?
No.
Good. So in this podcast, we want to just talk about some current NFL things that are going on. I wanted to start with the Chiefs-Rams recap. Greatest game of all time, perhaps?
Offensively. Honestly, defensively, though, there were some really good plays, too. It's amazing how in a game where more than 100 points are scored, it was actually a defense that won the game. But yeah, quite entertaining.
I think actually the Rams won the game.
Really? I thought they just gave it to the defense on both sides.
Going off that point, I think the biggest takeaway from that is the fact that, one, how the NFL is changing with like the air raid offenses that we saw with the Rams and the Chiefs, and you're seeing in Chicago, which we'll touch on later. But everyone always wanted to have these shutdown defenses. You know, that's how it used to be. But now, really what you need is one or two big playmakers that could just change an entire game. Like Aaron Donald.
Who we dropped from our fantasy team.
Who we just gave up after 2 games without a sack. But I think it's just, going forward, something that has to be thought about, not trying to shut down every single offensive player that you're playing against, but instead having one or two key guys, pay them as much as you can, and tell them, make the big plays when we need them. And that's exactly what happened in that game. Aaron Donald was a monstrosity at the line, and what was his name? Had that insane fumble recovery, forced fumble. Mm-hmm. It was nuts.
I think that what I've noticed a lot too is that teams go for it more on fourth down, like if they're not in their own 20, because they know if they give the ball back to the other team, they're just going to score. I mean, you see that when people play the Saints or the Rams or the Chiefs. You see them be a lot more aggressive on offense because they don't want to turn the ball over to the other team, and that's made the game is much more exciting to watch, I think.
And I think both those points go to what Kyle was saying, or your point goes to what Kyle was saying, that because the offenses are so good and you can't stop them, it's kind of pointless to try to just load up on defensive players or an all-around defensive team, because very rarely will you ever be good enough to really shut down an offense like the Saints or the Rams or the Chiefs. But if you can get that player who's going to force a fumble, with 2 minutes to go, that can win you the game, rather than just trying to hold them to 15 points.
Right, which doesn't really happen anymore.
Yeah, you got to pay for... First of all, you got to pay for the smart coaches. Then you got to pay for the offensive weapons and build around them. And then you use the remaining money to pay your defensive players.
So not what the Raiders did then.
The opposite. Exactly. First thing you do is you give your coach $100 million who hasn't coached in 15 years.
And then you tell him, get rid of our best player.
Get him out of here. I mean, that's basically what we did with our fantasy team.
Yep, and we're tanking.
We're basically the Oakland Raiders. So I wanted to ask you guys which of these two teams you prefer for a Super Bowl favorite. I mean, it might be a Super Bowl preview, but is there one of these teams that you think is a better team? I mean, I know the Rams won, but...
Well, the Rams won, so they're probably better. I think the Rams defense has more big name players like that. I think Mahomes obviously is more electric of a player than Jared Goff, but is prone to turnovers as well. Of course, he's young, still improving, more of a all-star caliber player for the future. But Goff is a little bit more solid. I would lean Rams a little bit, but, I know Mahomes over there is going to be maybe leaning toward the other way.
Yeah, so I think if you have to think about it, Patrick Mahomes has just unbelievable potential. He has the best arm in the NFL, and the kid's like 19, 20 years old. I mean, he can make literally any throw. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we saw him, I think it was against Denver. He got flushed out of the pocket, rolls left. He can't get the throw off with his right arm. He used his left arm and completed it and converted a third down. Like, there's like not many people in the NFL, if any, that could do that or think about doing that. Plus, you have to worry about him on the ground. Like, he doesn't run as much, I think, as we thought he might, but you also don't have to in that offense. However, Jared Goff might be a better game manager, and, I mean, having the smartest coach in the NFL definitely helps that. And one of the things I noticed watching the game on Monday was Jared Goff, like his progression over the last couple of years. Obviously, everyone thought he sucked. What was before McVay came in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now, when he's missing throws, he's not oversailing any of his receivers. All his misses are low, which prevents the defense from even having an opportunity to intercept those balls, which going forward is huge.
I remember thinking back to before McVay showed up, and we were looking at the young quarterbacks in the league, and it was like Dak Prescott was way better than everyone, and Carson Wentz was like pretty good. And then there's this Jared Goff guy, and we're like, oh, what a bust. And now it's like flipped completely.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like Mahomes is like Brett Favre if he was athletic, and maybe he'll...
Yeah.
Tell me Brett Favre was athletic.
Well... He's athletic in the sense that he was a very good athlete, but not like fast and could jump and make people miss in the open field. And he's so young that maybe he can clean up that interception rate.
Real question is, who has the better dick pics?
Right.
Favre or Mahomes?
Can't say I've seen either. However.
Get out of the box you're living in that case. I feel like, so Mahomes is basically a rookie, right? I mean, he played one game last year. Have we ever seen a rookie quarterback win the Super Bowl, but like he is the focal point of the team? Because I know Big Ben did in his rookie season, but that was the defense, and Jerome the Bus Bet is carrying them. But have we ever seen this before? I don't think we have.
Well, he's not a rookie quarterback since he played last year.
But essentially speaking, ostensibly.
I mean, he was on the team for a full year, just practicing getting better at football. I don't think that's insignificant, but I don't know what was Russell Wilson, like a third-year player in the Seahawks won the Super Bowl?
Sounds right.
Yeah, I think so. But the crazy thing is, I was telling you, Sam, this the other day, is that like Patrick Mahomes is literally the ideal quarterback for an Andy Reid-led offense.
Yes.
Like Andy Reid, I mean, the guy loves Thanksgiving. You could tell, but it has nothing to do with it. I don't even know why I told you that. However, he's somehow one of the smartest I think he's a top 3, top 2, possibly coach in the NFL. I honestly think Bill Belichick is starting to fall out of this conversation, which we could talk about after. But just the fact that he finally has a mobile quarterback that doesn't just have to game manage, but you can call a play. Mahomes could read the line, know exactly what to do, and even if that coverage is solid, he has, like I already said, that big playability of throwing with his left hand when he's rolling out left, or juking any player on the defense and picking up 8 to 10 yards to get a first down. There's just way too many opportunities on that offense. Especially, I didn't really think Sammy Watkins was going to, he kind of was used his last couple of years as a so-called decoy when he was a wide receiver, because he was with the Rams last year and they didn't really use him at all. Mm-hmm. But now this year, we're kind of seeing he is kind of a decoy for Tyreek Hill, but at the same time, he has the ability to make these plays and make these catches, and I think he has like 5 or 6 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, so far this year, and it's like, that's not something I expected. I expected this offense to be Tyreek Hill, Mahomes,
Kareem Hunt,
Kelsey, and Hunt.
Yeah.
And that was it. But having Sammy Watkins opens up a lot too, and I don't think a lot of people even think about him when they think about the Kansas City offense.
Yeah, I think talking about the coaches a little bit, I would still take the Rams with their Chiefs because I trust Sean McVay more. I mean, we've seen Andy Reid make some questionable calls and questionable time management decisions in the playoffs before, and I would just be a little nervous about that, whereas I think Sean McVay is the best coach in football right now. I would give Bill Belichick a little bit of a pass if we think he slipped this year, because I mean
20-year track record, perhaps.
Right. And also, if you look at the talent of the Patriots versus the talent of, say, the Chiefs, I mean, you go down the line and they just have far more talented players on offense, whereas the Patriots have a 41-year-old Tom Brady, a Gronk that doesn't look like he can even play football anymore, and Julian Edelman. So I would give it a
Josh
pass
Gordon.
there. Huh?
Don't forget Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
But going back to who I would take for the Super Bowl, I do want to say Rams. I do think the sky is the limit for Kansas City. However, and as you can see, I just had to look this up. But
well, your in-game podcast research is on
exactly. Yeah, I just couldn't think of the exact football terminology. However, so Sean McVay leads the league this year, and the Rams do, in using an 11 personnel offense, which is...
Don't they always have 11 people in the field?
That's not what that means.
Sometimes they get a penalty.
So 11 personnel is 3 wide receivers and a running back. They don't really use a tight end ever. Like we saw a couple... Gerald Everett went off, I think, for 2 touchdowns on Monday. But that's only because Cooper Kupp's out. So their personnel is kind of changing a little bit now for the rest of the year without having Cooper Kupp to be out there for 99% of the snaps. But so using this 11 personnel offense, literally every play just disguises every play because you don't know at all. You can't predict what he's going to do. Because if you have the same 3 wide receivers and the same running back lined up in the same spot every time, you can't say, oh, this is the play they're going to run, or this is one of the 2 or 3 plays they're going to run, because literally their entire playbook comes from that same personnel. So it's crazy that other coaches really aren't doing that. I think we're seeing a trend towards that with Matt Nagy and with Andy Reid now and stuff like that. But I just think Sean McVay is the smartest man in football. He has the best weapons, arguably, but...
I haven't even mentioned Todd Gurley yet.
I know.
Yeah. So.
He's pretty good, I've heard.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how in the NFL it seems that a coach can make such a large difference, which is, I think, a little bit different than the NBA. But, I mean, like you said, Jared Goff seemed like a bust. They didn't see much talent on this. Even Todd Gurley, wasn't doing...
That second year was really rough.
Yeah, and then McVay comes in, replacing the dead corpse of Jeff Fisher, and they're just... You instantly, I guess we have talent on this team. So I think it makes a lot more difference in football.
I just don't want to say that the Rams make the Super Bowl because
you predicted it earlier this year?
Because the Bears will?
Because I think I'm changing tune, which we'll talk about soon.
Yeah,
but
let's move
I think
on
the Bears
to that.
Kind of, they have the opportunity to shut them down, but not shut them down, but beat them.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Bears-Vikings game from last weekend, because we have 2 Bears fans and 1 Viking fan here. So, Kyle, why don't you just go ahead and go on your Bears rant that we've all waited for?
My God. The 2018 Chicago Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Yes, same division or same conference as the Rams, who I just gushed about for I don't know how long. But
do you mean the Bears are all going to get tickets and go to the Super Bowl to watch? Or?
I mean, I guess that's a good consolation prize if they lose in the NFC championship game. But there's just so many different factors. Like, what we're seeing right now with the Bears is equivalent to what we saw with Jared Goff and the Rams when they signed Sean McVay as the head coach. Like, Matt Nagy is coming from an Andy Reid offense. Andy Reid has said that Matt Nagy is one of, if not, like, his best assistant quarterback coach, whatever the hell he was, that he's ever had on his team. Like, one of the smartest guys that he's ever had be in his group. And that coming from Andy Reid is a big, what's the word?
Compliment?
Big compliment, yes. And I think we're seeing that too. Like, the Bears have so many different weapons, like, that we didn't probably think about. Like, we knew what Allen Robinson was when he was in Jacksonville, but you also have Blake Bortles throwing the ball to him.
Who is the boat, though?
Or the woat. And then the signing of Anthony Miller out of Memphis, he, since being healthy, like the last 4 weeks, his routes out of the slot and his catches that he makes are incredible. I think Trey Burton had a very down game on Thanksgiving, but, he's young. He probably was suffering from the effects of Blackout Wednesday. Who's to say, really? And then you have, Jordan Howard's kind of been pretty upsetting this year, but the thing is, he doesn't really fit this offense. Like, he was never really a pass catcher. He's catching more passes this year than he was any other year, but there's still not a lot. And that's like, Tariq Cohen to the Bears should be what Todd Gurley is to the Rams. And
Tariq's so small, though.
He is small, but we're trending in that direction so far over the last couple of weeks, where Tariq's been more of a focal point than Jordan Reed. And then having Mitchell Trubisky have the ability
Jordan Howard.
Oh.
Did I say Jordan Reed?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jordan Howard,
Yeah.
Same person.
Naturally.
They suck. Either way, Mitch Trubisky's ability to create plays, whether he gets pushed out of the pocket. He's leading the NFL, or the quarterbacks in the NFL in rushing right now. Never once did I think there'd be a quarterback, as long as Cam Newton's in the league, that would do that. But this is what Trubisky's doing, which allows him to open up other plays throughout the rest of the offense. And like I said, just Matt Nagy is just way too smart of a coach and knows how to utilize personnel and take advantage of defensive breakdowns. And just having Trubisky as well over the last year learn kind of how to read those defenses and then call different things at the line when he sees them has been a big improvement too. But also, the reason I think that the Bears can beat the Rams come, the NFC Championship game most likely. We'll get a preview of this in a couple weeks, but is the defense. Like, the defense is top notch. Baltimore's had a great defense this year, yes, but they don't have anyone on offense, so they can't really do much. But the Bears, on the other hand, there's just so many playmakers. Like, you got, I can't think of any names right now.
Khalil Mack, our best player?
Yeah, you can start there. We can start with Khalil Mack. The signing for him was just tremendous because you have offensive linemen that, more often than not, you have to kind of double team the man. What was that on Monday? He pushed down a 340-pound man with his left hand.
Yeah.
And just,
I don't understand how that's possible. Is he just stronger than all of them?
He's stronger than probably everyone else on the field. At least that's what he looks like. Have you seen the size of his neck?
No, have you been looking at his neck?
Yeah, it's big. It's a big neck. I'm not sure what that means, but... And then you have Akeem Hicks, who had an incredible game
also
on
our
Monday.
fantasy team. We dropped Aaron Donald for him.
Yeah, probably not a smart play, but...
No, certainly not.
Just having Khalil Mack up front to create pressure on quarterbacks opens up more for other players on the defensive line to take advantage of, like Akeem Hicks. And then, Roquan Smith is coming into his own.
Also on our fantasy team.
Yes, started off kind of slow, but that's because he missed basically the entire preseason and
he gets like
off-season.
10 tackles per game.
Yeah, he's insane. And if you want to talk about like actual statistics, which I do have pulled up,
I would like them.
So, Football Outsiders, incredible website for the stats nerd like myself. So they have this statistic called it's DVOA, which is it measures basically success rates at all different parts of the field. So like say you have one running back that runs 3 yards and another running back that runs 3 yards. Which one was the more efficient and more effective run? You might think that it's the same, but depending on field position, depending on how close they are to getting a first down and stuff like that, it rates to everything. So it's pretty crazy. And
yeah, it's a better way to value defenses and offenses than just basic box score stats.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. In layman's terms.
Layman, nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
So talking about the Bears in regards to that, they are the third best passing defense and the first ranked rushing defense in terms of this DVOA. And so overall, they give up almost 21% less efficiency to opposing offenses than any other team in the league does, which is absolutely insane to think about. Like, somehow Buffalo is ranked 2, but that's because I guess they're on defense so much, I would say. So, you have more opportunities than that. But the Bears, however, there's just so much big play ability, not even just up front, but even like our cornerbacks and our stuff like that, like Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, both of them Fuller has 5 interceptions so far this year. Eddie Jackson has 4. Like, that's absolutely insane. I mean, not just that. Since the start of last year, we just talked about this before the podcast. Since the start of last year, Eddie Jackson has 1 less touchdown than Julio Jones does. That's absolute insanity. He was drafted in the 4th round of the draft, and that's because he doesn't have the speed of a conventional corner. When he was at Alabama, though, like, that was what they used him for, was his big playability, and that's what the Bears front office did, is they took a chance on someone that might not have the speed and stuff, but the man's a ball hawk. Like, he knows where to be on almost every play to break up passes, to intercept passes. It's just, there's just so many, like I just talked about, like, you pay your best defensive players, but somehow the Bears have loaded up on stud defensive players without having to pay too much, that I think that turns a game against the Rams more in their favor than facing someone like if the Rams had to play the Patriots or something like that. That's my rant.
Wow. First of all, must I say that was incredible to listen to.
I don't know. Do you must say that? Must you?
Yeah, he's holding a gun to my head.
Okay.
Real quick, we're going to move on to the Vikings because I know Seth has had too much of Bears talk, but I just wanted to say, is Mitch Trubisky good?
At football or otherwise?
Not at football, no.
Oh, okay.
In the bedroom.
Oh. I don't got to tell you.
I feel like, for me, okay, so he's obviously an elite runner for a quarterback, and he's obviously able to get out of sacks and create more time in the play, but I feel that he has trouble if he doesn't hit his first read. When he hits his first read, he's very accurate, an excellent quarterback. He has some trouble. He's getting better at this, but definitely early on in the season, he had a lot of trouble if his first read wasn't open. But that being said, I've seen improvement over the course of the season. He's missing less receivers. He used to overthrow like at least 12 receivers a game. But I just don't know if I can trust Mitchell Trubisky as my quarterback in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl,
So, do I think Mitchell Trubisky is good?
Not a football, keep in mind.
The answer is no. Mitchell Trubisky is fucking great.
I knew he'd do that.
Yeah. I had to go there. I mean, just like you said, just the growth, even just since the start of this season, he is a lot more confident when he's at the line. And I think a lot of that has to do with kind of the mindset that Matt Nagy has instilled. And it's more of a family. It's not just one player looking for one player or 2 players. There's 4 options every single play. And now, over the last couple weeks, he has been a lot more, I guess, like I said, confident in this guy's not open. He's not where he should be. Let's go to this option. Oh, he's not open. This option's open. And it's just like he's getting much quicker with those reads, and he's not missing those throws nearly as much. And like I said, it's like the Jared Goff situation from 2 years ago when they got McVay. Like, we thought the same thing, but the things a good coach can do for a young quarterback is outstanding, honestly, in the NFL.
Seth, as an unbiased third party, is he good?
We're not talking about football, right?
No, we never were.
I don't disagree with anything Kyle said. I think that he definitely has the potential. He shows the talent and the raw skills. I could see him folding a little bit or not quite coming through to the extent that they would need in the playoffs against a good team like the Saints or the Rams. And I'd certainly be more comfortable if I had any of the quarterbacks on those teams. But at the same time, you could see him pulling out like, a couple 3rd and 15 or 3rd and goal from the 15 and running it into the corner of the end zone to put them up by 3, towards the end of the game. Like, I think those are all real possibilities, but it's definitely probably the Bears' biggest weakness at this point, or uncertainty.
Yeah. All right, you can have your little time to talk about the Vikings, your little Vikings that you love so much.
I just want to know why half of Kirk Cousins' passes get deflected or tipped. Does anyone know?
It's astounding. It honestly takes some skill to do that.
Yeah. I I mean, the Vikings, obviously, I was very disappointed in their showing against the Bears. Bears completely shut down our running game, so we had nothing. It was like not even a threat that we were going to run. I think we had like 20 rushing yards the entire game. Mm-hmm. And then when you're getting so much pressure in the quarterback, when our offensive line couldn't contain Mack or Hicks, and even if they don't get a sack, half the time Cousins' passes are tipped. It's really hard to move the ball in offense if you can't run and only half of your passes are actually in the air towards the receiver. And then the quarterbacks only have to do like a mediocre job at that point to stop the Vikings on offense. So that was a tough game, but yeah, we're going to get to this later, but I think the Packers matchup is going to be key for them on Sunday. I
still think that they're going to get one of the wild card spots, but coming into this season as, I think, one of the not Super Bowl favorites necessarily, but a popular pick for the Super Bowl, I think it's been a disappointing season. And I think a lot of that's been on Kirk Cousins, which kind of unless you want to say something, I'm going to go to the next segment.
I just want to say, I don't think we should overlook the fact that the Bears beat all three of their NFC North competitors within a span of 12 days.
That's not true.
That is true.
No, we didn't beat the Packers.
Did we not?
No, we beat the Lions twice.
The Lions twice, yeah.
Yeah.
Either way. 3 matchups in the NFC North, 12 days, 3 wins.
One dream.
One dream.
All right, so for our next segment, we're going to bring in a guest for the first time in the history of the podcast.
Oh my God.
Good friend, my roommate, Kevin Hupp, is going to call in, and by call in, I mean move from his chair 2 feet to the left of us onto the couch. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
So we're going to discuss Alex Smith versus Case Keenum versus Kirk Cousins. 1 ring, 3 men, only 1 leave alive.
There's actually 4 men, 1 couch right now.
I wanted to discuss them because, quite frankly, I heard them discuss this on the Bill Simmons podcast, and I stole a trait from them. So you're welcome.
Thanks, Bill.
So I just want to give a little background before we get into this. So all 3 of these quarterbacks moved teams last year. Alex Smith from the Chiefs to the 49ers. And by the 49ers, of course, I mean, what did I just say? Where did he come from? No, he moved from the Chiefs to the Redskins. And then Case Keenum moved from the Vikings to the Broncos. And then Kirk Cousins moved from
Washington
to
Minnesota.
Yes, thank you. Kirk Cousins, let's go over their salaries, shall we? Kirk Cousins, 3 years, $84 million. Case Keenum, 2-year contract, $36 million. Alex Smith, 4-year contract, $94 million. So they all move teams. Let's discuss who's better based on their salaries and what was a good move for which team. Kevin, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think just based on the beginning of the season, I'm going to sit on the fence here.
Mm-hmm.
Bad move. But
please do.
It's really hard to tell. I think you need at least a full year to evaluate the real, I guess, value of a quarterback because, you look at like Alex Smith, and he went from a team like the Chiefs where he had Andy Reid coaching and running the offense with wide receivers that he had to a team like the Redskins, where you have Gruden as a coach who is an offensive coach, but is obviously not as successful as Andy Reid over his career.
Right.
And you give him pretty much, until they signed Adrian Peterson, like no running threat and no one to pass to. So it's like, Alex Smith, I think, is an extremely coachable quarterback.
Yeah.
But when you don't give him any tools to work with, he's not really that good.
Right. And he also doesn't have a leg now, so that's...
I was about to say that.
Yeah, it doesn't really help him part of his leg sticking out of the inside.
The thing with Alex Smith is, like, he's a game manager, and that's really what he is. He doesn't provide any electricity or any,
So
like
I can't
jaw-dropping
plug into
plays.
Alex Smith and charge my iPhone?
You could try it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you definitively.
I think that while Alex Smith might be pegged as a game manager, he's been shown to be a winner. Maybe that's partly Andy Reid too, but he's been shown to be a winner. And I think a good leader, maybe he's not a vocal leader or doesn't get really fired up like Kirk Cousins might. But
you like that?
Exactly, I do like that. So what about Case Keenum?
I have a very soft spot in my heart. If you reached inside my heart and felt around, there's some firm areas and there's some soft spots, and one of those soft spots is occupied by Case Keenum after the Miracle Minneapolis. Case Keenum's throw to Stephon Diggs to send us to the NFC Championship game. And also, he was able to throw his passes past the defensive line and not get them tipped every other play. So I'm feeling... I understand why the Vikings wanted to let him go and bring in Kirk, and they felt like Kirk was a franchise quarterback, and Case was just kind of like did well with what we gave him and was riding a hot streak and taking advantage of all the weapons, but not propelling the Vikings further. And I still believe that Kirk has the ability to do that, but at this point in the season, I'm feeling kind of regrettable about that decision, although deep down I still believe it'll come through for us in the long term. But right now, considering Alex Smith doesn't have a leg, I'd say Case Keenum is performing the best out of the three of those.
Yeah, Kevin, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm kind of impartial to Alex Smith. You know, I really like Andy Reid. So to see Alex Smith do really well for Andy Reid was just kind of solidified any positive feelings I had toward Alex Smith. You know, it's really... Case Keenum's really had kind of a tough career. Like,
yeah,
he was one of those kind of quarterbacks that was really great in college and then just didn't have that much success in the NFL. But sometimes those quarterbacks can come back and be really successful toward the end of their career, I guess, once they like...
Yeah, it's happened before, definitely.
Yeah, once they stay in a team and actually really learn the system, then
right.
They have a decent chance.
Well, Case Keenum also coached by the scourge of Jeff Fisher, so that sets you back
that
3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to consider the coaches that quarterbacks have. I mean, look at Jared Goff, look at Mitch Trubisky, like, you know, neither of them did that well, but then when they have good coaches, they are extremely successful, or at least working on it, you know?
Yeah, I was actually pretty confused when this happened because, in my mind, Case Keenum is just as good as Kirk Cousins, or certainly last year he was. I don't think that I expected Kirk Cousins to have a better year than Case Keenum had last year.
When you say in your mind, do you mean like when you're dreaming about them, they perform just as well, or?
No, I mean when we're all three of us lying in bed at night.
Oh, okay.
I think to myself, boy, they're just about
the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, I mean, maybe Kirk Cousins does give a higher ceiling, but have we really seen his ceiling? I mean, or even...
I've been in his house. It's a very nice ceiling.
I don't know if we've even seen a glimpse of it. I think he's like the anti-Alex Smith.
Chandelier.
For me, he's like the anti-Alex Smith, where he's more talented than a game manager might be, but he hasn't proven to be a winner. And if you're trying to take your team to that level of Super Bowl contender when you were so close last year, I don't know if that's the right quarterback to bring in. Kyle, you've been over there silent for a while. You want to come in?
Yeah, I've been thinking what to say, and it's like, I don't really know if I have any, like, feelings towards any three of them. Like, I think Cousins is, like, would be the biggest playmaker out of all three of them. Like I said, Alex Smith, I feel like, is just a game manager. Case Keenum had incredible weapons last year, and now he's in Denver with downgrades at pretty much every spot except maybe, I don't know, you could possibly argue running back. Like Phillip Lindsay has been a big, you know, having an outbreak year for an undrafted rookie. But, like, you have Emmanuel Sanders, who was playing really well to start the year, and he's kind of cooled off. Got rid of Demaryius Thomas, who really wasn't doing anything anyways. And then you got, what's his name? It's the other, Cortland Sutton, who I think is going to end up being a really good wide receiver, but he's a rookie. He's still raw. He's still learning the game, too. So it sucks going from one place with incredible weapons at every position, pretty much, to a place with inferior weapons at every position and having the expectations on yourself to perform the same or better than you did the year before.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kevin, before we go, I want to take advantage of you being here, and by before we go, I mean before you go, and by you go, I mean to the chair on the other side of the do you have any thoughts on Mitchell T?
Yeah, he's going to be the greatest of all time, eventually. Maybe not right away, but
I love it.
You heard it here first.
Oh my God!
All right, well, Kevin, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, Kevin, thank you for being our first ever guest.
Well, thank you for having me. Is this the first guest and the first time you guys have recorded this in the same place?
Yes.
Wow.
3 men, 1 couch, four men.
One apartment.
One dream.
All right, so
Thank you.
thanks for being on, Kevin. Go ahead and just stay here right next to us. All right, so next, quickly, I want to go over Thanksgiving games. Any thoughts on any of these games? So the Bears beat the Lions, the Saints beat the Falcons, and the Cowboys beat the Redskins, correct?
The Bears didn't just beat the Lions. The Bears beat the Lions with a backup quarterback. I mean, I guess you can argue the man has been in the NFL since the beginning of time, I'm pretty sure. And is, I think, top 50 in quarterback earnings and started 2 games prior to Thursday. But he went out there and showed, like, in the case that Trubisky is out for longer than just a game, he can still control the offense. The only thing that kind of was interesting to me was seeing Nagy call the same plays that he would call for Trubisky, where it required athletic ability to run. I don't think he realized that Chase Daniel isn't as fast or as quick or shifty as Trubisky, but he got it done. So, that's like the biggest takeaway. It definitely makes it easier when, you're a backup quarterback that comes in to teach a rookie or a second-year quarterback that hasn't been in the league that long, but you're also coming from the same place your head coach was from. Like, he was in Kansas City with Nagy his entire career, so, like, he has a bond with Nagy, and, I think that showed Nagy trusts him. That's why he brought him over. So, I think that's just, like, it's good as a Bears fan to be able to enjoy a win when your soon-to-be greatest of all-time quarterback sits out a game.
Yeah, I don't want to talk more about the Bears because Kyle Ray went on a 10-minute rant about them. But the Lions, we think they're crossed off now. They're not going to make the playoffs, I presume.
I never thought they were.
Remember when I said that maybe they're one of those frisky teams that aren't good that make the playoffs?
But you were wrong. And I was busy making 3 pies and mashed potatoes, so I hardly watched any of this game.
Cool.
Interesting.
But Kenny Galladay's on my fantasy team, so I love him.
Kenny Galladay is going to be an animal.
They call him
He already
Babytron.
is.
Babytron, yes.
He's actually human. So the second game, I just want to quickly touch on.
Please.
Should the Cowboys be the favorite for that division now, even though they're not that good at football, mostly?
So here's the thing with this. Amari Cooper had
Please use his Christian name.
a career day, and he shouldn't have. I watched that entire game, and his 2 touchdown receptions were like his
Just missed tackles.
Yeah, his cornerback, one either slipped or I think the other one was his cornerback ran into his own teammate and just left Amari Cooper wide open. And if Dak Prescott can't make that throw, like, that's just you just have to be a competent quarterback to be able to make that throw to get Amari Cooper the ball and let him basically just outrun 2 other players. So,
yeah,
I don't think we should overreact to the Amari Cooper thing. Like,
I mean, he's certainly an improvement on what their wide receivers were before. So,
yeah, that's true.
This division is wide open. I mean, we have the Cowboys and the Redskins at 6-5. We have the Eagles at 4-6, still coming off their Super Bowl hangover. The Giants at 3-7 with, I believe, a cardboard cutout of Eli Manning playing.
Yes.
And the Redskins have lost Alex Smith for the year. So, I mean,
Is this
I would
the
say
worst division in the league?
Yes.
yes.
It's got to be, right?
You're going to win this division with 9-7, probably, right? And it might be the Cowboys.
They might even get 9 wins, but yeah.
So I want to move on to the third game, the Saints and Falcons. I didn't watch a second of this game, but do we think the Saints are Super Bowl favorites?
No.
I think the Rams are the favorites, but I think it's a 3-team tier with the Saints, the Rams, and Chiefs.
I agree.
And then you have got the people outside looking in, like the Bears, Patriots. I mean, Patriots are never really on the outside looking in, but at this point, I would say, and maybe the Steelers as an outside shot.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it in my mind.
Yeah, I think the Saints, I don't know. You can never count out Drew Brees. He's been playing unbelievable football this year. How old is he? Like 35 or 36?
I think 38 or 39.
Yeah, and I mean, they can hang with anyone in the playoffs, so I'd watch out for them.
Like they just scored. How many points they scored the other day? I can't remember.
They've been scoring 40 points every week, it seems.
Yeah, and last week, Thomas, Ingram, or Kamara, neither of them saw the end zone, and they still put.
They couldn't see the end zone.
They couldn't see it. They couldn't touch it. They had no clue where it was.
They had like
but it
4
didn't even
players
matter.
who scored their first NFL touchdown. Yeah, it was wild.
I want to quickly also discuss the AFC South because there's another division that has kind of been back and forth. You have the Texans at 7-3 now. So I said last time we talked that they had the least impressive 6-game winning streak I've ever seen in my life. It is now the least impressive 7-game winning streak I've ever seen in my life. Then you have the Colts at 5-5, who you guys are bullish on, I would say.
Love the
Colts. Titans at 5-5, and the Jaguars at 3-7. So I must admit you guys were right about the Colts and the Jaguars. It looks like the Jaguars are out of the playoffs because maybe Blake Bortles is the woat.
Too early to say. Too early to say.
Is it Jaguars or Jaguars?
What are the two things you just said? You said the same word twice.
Jaguar.
Jaguar. You said the same thing twice. Like Gagwire is how you're pronouncing it, kind of?
That's one way. The other way is Jaguar.
You just said in like a little French accent. You didn't even change anything.
Jaguar.
I don't know.
I think the Colts are going to win the division. I said it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think a lot of people are kind of dismissing the fact, like, they think the Eagles are bad. How much of that has to do with the fact that Frank Reich's not there, and now all of a sudden he's in Indianapolis, and look at what they're doing. It's kind of crazy. Like, I told you the other day, I wasn't sure how much the Colts were going to win by against Tennessee. The only way they were going to do it was if T.Y. was coming out of the slot and had a big game, which is exactly what happened, which just gives me kind of faith that Frank Reich is, he's preparing for these games a lot better than some other coaches in the league would, knowing that these are the defensive players we have to go after, and that's exactly what we're going to do to win these games. And it's like Andrew Luck statistically is having like his best year that he's ever had when he's healthy. He's barely being touched when when he drops back or anything like that. Like when he has time, and we were talking about how a couple years ago when he was drafted, like he could be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and I think he's quietly showing that he should still be in that conversation, and I don't think a lot of people are looking at that. Yeah,
I don't know. The Colts have definitely gotten better. They have a running game now with Marlon Mack back, who has been, I would say, better than expected, and their defense has been getting better coming back from some injuries.
Yep.
Like ever since that Patriots game where they had barely enough live bodies to play defense. But I still think that the Texans have more talent, especially on the defensive end, and I would still pick the
But is J.J. Watt on a decline?
He's certainly not on an incline.
I think the field they play on is flat, right?
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, who's better, JJ or TJ? It's got to be TJ at this point, right?
I think so. I guess that might not be neither here nor there.
Well, they have Jajavian, too. And I don't know. I still, in Deshaun, I trust since he's on both my fantasy teams, so I have to. I basically have Stockholm Syndrome with Deshaun Watson. What about the Titans? We don't think they could get frisky near the end of the year? And by frisky, that's, of course, the word I use for teams that aren't good.
In that case, yes, they could. I have no confidence in the Titans doing anything.
Me neither. It's
other than putting a team on the field and playing football. But
that makes it I think that, we've talked a lot about the new NFL and these offenses, and you just need a really good quarterback and a really good offense to win. And the Colts certainly have that in Andrew Luck, and they have an elite offense. Whereas you look at some team like the Titans, where they have Marcus Mariota, who is disappointed, and maybe a really good defense, or at least a very good defense, and they're well coached, but it just might not be enough with Marcus Mariota as your quarterback.
He just can't stay healthy either. Like, when healthy,
he's still ass.
No, he's a good quarterback when he's healthy, but he literally can't stay healthy for longer than an entire football game.
Remember when he threw a pass to himself in the playoffs last year? That was wild,
pissed me off.
All right, let's move on to the last segment before we go, and by go I mean still continue sitting on his couch. I want to preview some of the games this weekend. We have a couple good ones. If I can just get to them, which I won't. Somehow both of these... Seth's ruined my tabs. Okay,
you're definitely talking about the
I've been
Oakland
bamboozled.
Baltimore game?
Yes. So I want to talk about Panthers and Seahawks first, because could this be a game where the loser is out of the playoffs, or the winner kind of gets into the driver's seat for the wild card? I think both these teams are... The Seahawks are 5-5, and the Panthers are 6-4. And their competition for the wild card is what? The Packers and the Vikings, right?
I don't know how much it is the Packers, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know how much I love Russell Wilson. He's my one true love now that LeBron's on the Lakers.
Naturally.
However, let me tell you, Saquon Barkley and I had a wild ride of him courting me this season. So, I love the Seahawks. I feel like the Panthers have been very up and down this year. Mm-hmm. And you never really...
That's how they always are, though, I feel.
Yeah, it's like something about the volatility of having Cam as your quarterback.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly it's kind of now or never for both of these teams, I'd
Right.
say, to make a run into the playoffs. So
Yeah.
should be a nice matchup.
And
two mobile quarterbacks and exciting offenses.
Yeah, and similarly, I'll just bring it up now. I mean, it's happening with the Vikings and Packers game this weekend, too. That's probably a game where the loser is not in a good position for the playoffs. Maybe the Packers already aren't, but...
Yeah, I will be downright despondent if the Vikings lose Sunday night. So.
I will be cheering hardcore for the Packers this weekend.
I don't think the Packers are good. I've said it before. And I think that they're going to lose this game and not make the playoffs.
They do have three of the greatest... They do have the best names of any wide receiver core in the league, though. I mean, Geronimo Allison, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Equanimous St. Brown.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling has 3 middle names.
Wow.
Yeah, I said it.
Scantling? Let's not forget about Randall Corn on the Cobb.
That's right.
Yeah.
The corpse of...
You just call Randall Cobb a corpse?
Yeah.
He's fine, right?
He's old. He almost got dropped before the season started.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't even want him on the team. They're just playing him just because he's still there. And he's not even getting as much playing time anymore because Valdez-Scantling has proven that he's still kind of raw, but he has the ability to exceed even at this level of his career, Randall Cobb's game.
Does anyone know anyone with a middle name of Marquez or Valdez or Scantling?
No, but I certainly don't know anyone with the first name of those or last name.
Marcus Colston.
But it's not Marquez.
It was Marquise.
It was a Q though.
Yeah.
It just not the S. It was S at the end instead of Z.
What about Valdez or Scantling?
Valdez is like a pretty common.
It's just basically the most common name I've ever heard. Actually, now that I think about it.
Needless to say, he's got 3 middle names.
So if you guys were to have to predict, because you do have to predict right now, on the spot, who is going to make the 2 wild cards in the NFC, who would you say?
Obviously the Vikings.
Actually.
And the Seahawks, like I said last time you asked me.
Good, I'm glad you haven't wavered.
Not because nothing has changed since then, just because my opinions are set in stone and I will never, no amount of truth could possibly dissuade me.
Kyle, what do you think?
I think it stays at what it is now with Carolina and Minnesota.
Wow.
What?
Same.
Shocking take.
I think the same as well. I just don't think the Seahawks have a good enough team around Russell and they certainly aren't the defense of old. What they used to call them? The Legion of Boom? But now it's the Legion of Whom, am I right?
Hey.
Anywho, before we sign off, I wanted to... Nice, dude.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask you guys if your Super Bowl prediction has changed at all. I think... Did me and you both say Rams-Chiefs?
Yeah.
And what'd you say? Rams-Vikings or something?
I said Vikings-Chiefs. Rams-Vikings would be pretty tough.
Since they're in the same division?
Yeah.
And by division, I mean conference?
Right. Remember how I was talking about how my opinions are set in stone and no amount of truth could dissuade them?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, it was about 2 minutes ago. And that being said, I do not think the Vikings are making the Super Bowl.
The man has no principles.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Saints and Rams are in a tier by themselves in the NFC, so I would be shocked if it wasn't one of those teams, and that includes the Bears and the Vikings. But, if there's one thing the Vikings do, it is toying with my heart, so maybe they'll make a run in the playoffs just long enough for me to get my hopes up before they crush them mercilessly.
Yeah, I think so. I picked Rams Chiefs earlier, and when you pick two teams, they play each other, and the score is 54-51. Your hands are tied, all right? So I'm going with the same pick, and I think I'll take the Rams to win, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know he's going to say Bears.
Lock them up for the Super Bowl.
What about the Steelers or the Patriots? We don't think they have any chance?
The Patriots, I think we're seeing them fade. You can't get many more productive years out of Tom Brady. I think we're seeing kind of a decline of it now, and Bill Belichick is running the same offense he was 15 years ago, and that just doesn't fly in the NFL anymore, like we talked about. And I think the Chiefs are just too good of a football team.
I mean, the Patriots already beat the Chiefs. So
yeah, that's
they
fine.
can do it.
They can do it, yeah, but also that was how many weeks ago?
Several.
Yeah, exactly. And Mahomes is getting a lot more equated with the system. And
Acquainted?
Acquainted. Whatever you want to call it. Sure, however that's But I've been beating this drum for a while now.
Like it's a dead horse.
Give me the Bears in the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl.
You heard it here first, folks.
And the only way I think this really happens is if the Rams and the Saints have to play each other. Because if the Bears somehow end up having to play both of them, I don't think it happens. But
not twice, certainly. Lightning doesn't strike twice, they say.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, this has been another edition of Sport Ball with Squam, Stogan, Skulldog. Any final thoughts, boys?
You always ask me that. I never have any final thoughts.
Do you have any first thoughts, then?
Well, I already said them earlier in the podcast.
Cool.
But this has been another edition of the podcast that no one wanted, no one deserved, and no one asked for.
Yep, we'd like to say goodbye to our 5 listeners. Thanks for hanging with us.
Thicky Rubio out. Peace. I didn't get it.